Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to day number 3 of my Monster Week, where I spend Monday through Friday talking about my top 5 favorite monsters to use in Dungeons & Dragons. Most of these could apply to just about any type of fantasy role-playing game, but for me it's really, my favorite D&D monsters. So the first video I talked about orcs. Yesterday I talked about some of the greater undead that I like to use. And today I want to talk about dragons. In particular, my favorite of the dragon types, the black dragon. So for me, the black dragon was just, starting with 3rd edition, was just my favorite looking dragon. With the 2nd edition Monstrous Manual, it just looked kind of generic almost. It had like the horns going forward stuff, which was kind of cool, but with 3rd edition they really made a nice looking dragon. And I like the skeletal sort of look to the face, I like the curved horns. And for me, it was just always my favorite looking dragon. I'm not going to talk about like my personal rankings for the rest of them, because I think that could be something that I do as a secondary video. But I like the acid breath, I like the fact that they were sort of swamp dwellers, and I just always really liked the way that they looked. And I thought that the miniature lines always had some pretty cool looking black dragons. So here I've got my main black dragon miniatures. This was the first one that I ever got. This was from the Dragon Eye expansion for the D&D minis game from way back in 2003. See if I'll get to focus there. The glare is making it kind of difficult, but that also helps it show up. But so, 2003 is when this came out. Dragon Eye was the first expansion for the D&D minis game, so Harbinger was the initial set. And this was the rare miniature that I wanted the most, was the medium black dragon. And I remember buying quite a few boosters, and when I finally got this, it was just such a huge moment for me, because I loved this miniature so much. I thought it looked so cool. And in 3rd edition, or 3.5, when they did the D&D basic game, which came out I think in 2004, they used miniatures to go with it. And the major miniature that was included was another one of these. So I've got 2 of these, one's in my box set. But I just always liked the way that they looked. And to me that was sort of, it's one of those situations where it is certainly maybe style over substance, because they're definitely not the most powerful of the dragon types, but I always loved just the way that they looked, and I really enjoyed using them. One of the other things that I really liked is with the D&D Essentials Dungeon Master Kit, the DM screen has a black dragon on it, whereas red dragons tend to take up most of the marketing and promotional materials done by, Wizards of the Coast for their various products. So it was really cool to see that. And one of my favorite pre-written campaigns put out by Dungeon Magazine was Age of Worms. And Age of Worms actually had 2 fights with black dragons. So they had one kind of early on that the player characters were able to overcome. It was a younger one, and then later on they had a much more powerful black dragon. It was like the previous one's mother, I believe it was, out for revenge, and it was just really cool. And so like I said, black dragons have always been my favorite looking from 3rd edition on. Back in like the 2nd edition days, it was probably the red dragon, because I thought that one looked the best from like the AD&D depictions. Interestingly enough, the Dragonlance campaign setting for 3rd edition still used the AD&D style of dragon, so they didn't actually update the way dragons looked for the current edition. So in Dragonlance, the dragons all sort of have that retro feel to them, which is fine. I don't mind that at all, but at the same time, I would still much rather have this kind of black dragon. This one here is the D&D Icons Gargantuan Black Dragon, and this was the first of the D&D Icons lines to come out, and it was another thing that I was really excited about, because again, it was my favorite of the chromatic dragons. That was the first to come out. Like the red dragon came out shortly thereafter, but it was really nice to see, the black dragon was the first one that they did, and I just, again, always loved the way that this looked, with the head down sort of thing and the claws out. It just, for me, it was just such a cool looking miniature. And whoops, lastly, this is just a hatchling, just a small black dragon. And this was a common figure, so you can tell that the paint job is much more basic on it. But again, those are my favorite dragons in terms of just their appearance and how much I just like looking at them. So let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite of the dragon types? Is it one of the chromatic or metallic dragons, or do you like things like the gem dragons from AD&D, deep dragons, fang dragons? You know, let me know in the comments below what you guys kind of think. What are your preferences, and what is your favorite dragon type? If you have any stories about battling your favorite type of dragon, let me know as well. Like I said, I don't have a ton of black dragon stories, but I guess there's one that I will tell really quickly, and it wasn't actually a black dragon, but it was a campaign that I was running for a couple of my friends. And one of the players was playing a kobold, and he was a kobold half-dragon, or he was going to be a talented Tiamat. So he didn't have the half-dragon template yet, but he started gaining features as he went on, and black dragon was the type that he chose. And, you know, he was working alongside this paladin, and he was keeping his true allegiances a secret. And there was a part in the campaign where the paladin, to try to prevent something from happening, had to go and defeat all of these chosens of Tiamat, like these very high-powered dragons. And like, this was getting into the epic level, so he was already 20th level at this point. And I just remember going through and trying to fight this, you know, there were all these like worm dragons, and what was really cool, and I kind of wish the player could have been there, because this was his idea from the beginning, but he was unable to continue with the campaign due to like work schedules and life events and things like that. But I remember they got separated at one point when the other player couldn't make it. And so when this paladin was going after the black dragon, what he found was a skeletal black dragon that was just the skeleton. It was just the animated skeleton, so it didn't have any of its draconic abilities, and he managed to put it away pretty quickly. Before he did that, he actually met back up with this kobold, and I think I've got the name right. A buddy of mine, he was pretty creative with the names, and I think he named the kobold Sir Nimnal Knifer, as in like Knee, Knee, and then Knifer as if like basically because he's small and he stabs people in the knees. But it was kind of cool. He had this amulet or medallion that allowed him to do like giant growth, so he would increase by 2 size categories, and he only had a certain number of charges on that. But I remember like he teamed up with the paladin again, and the paladin player was so happy to have, you know, his friend back, and they go through and they defeat the skeletal dragon, which was a little too easy. And then when the paladin turned back around, all of a sudden, you know, this kobold had grown to, you know, large size, and had this very powerful, you know, bow that conveyed draconic abilities onto him. It was a weapon of legacy in 3rd edition before the Weapons of Legacy books existed, or the idea had even come out. But anyway, it was just a really cool moment, and it was kind of a sad moment as well, because the player playing the paladin had a look of genuine betrayal on his face, and it was kind of heartbreaking. And at the end I had to reassure him, it's like, you know, this wasn't something that I made up. This was the player's idea all along. Like, he had stuff to hide his alignment, and you know, he had scouted out for previous dragon battles when they were much lower level. He would scout out the location and try to warn the dragon to flee. So that was sort of like my major black dragon story. So he became like a half black dragon through his artifact and through his class. And again, it was just a huge moment, and it's one of those ones that I'll always remember. It was just such a cool moment. The only thing I regret is that the original player couldn't have been there to do the reveal. So anyway, like I said, that's sort of my Black Dragon story. And again, let me know in the comments below what some of your stories are with your favorite dragon battles. I can certainly do some more when I talk about the other metallic dragons at some point, which I definitely want to do. So I do have stories for fighting a few different types of dragon. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this week so far. And as always, if you have your own YouTube channel and you want to do a video reference or video response, then certainly do that and let me know, and I'd love to watch it. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.